Hart Crane, Impact and Illusion. Nina Gibans. I have always been a connector of dots. Placing incidences, people, and ideas on interesting platforms has been a specialty. Most make sense, sometimes only to me. Here are some examples around the poet and Bridges of Hart Crane. Did I ever dream that my annual birthday lunches on my father and my big day at Canary Cottage would carry any special meanings later? It was many years that I learned that this was simply a lovely place in Chagrin Falls, and more than that, it was the family home of Hart Crane, the much respected poet who spent many of his 32 years in this city. I keep this house in my memory as it transformed to a B&B, a restaurant through the years, triggering the taste of the chicken salad of my childhood with each encounter. Many years later, the Bridges of Cleveland became a major concentration in the 80s when the Cleveland Children's Museum developed an exhibit called Bridges. The entire staff learned about histories, types, structures, triangulation, and all things bridges. My role included labeling the bridges over the Cuyahoga with brass markers and creating a bridge map. The bridges were accurately drawn. We have all of them. I became a bridge nut. I met Hart Crane again through his poetry, through my bridge research. Naturally, it happened head-on as I started to expand Bridges everything, and especially Cleveland. The Brooklyn Bridge, Crane's life subject, we learned its history, building, and we sat across from it in New York City to everything we learned firsthand. That wonderful bridge was our bridge also. As time went on, I encountered Crane through his relationships with the artist William Summer, and also I went with a group of students to explore the museum they were developing at East High School. That's where Hart went, but I forgot that until I got there. There he was on display through his yearbook. It was an unexpected treat. In the intervening years, I visited Hart Crane Memorial Park in the Flats with the sculpture devoted to Crane. Cleveland had finally honored him. There was a portrait sculpture at the library in the corner of the building, right down the street from the house where he lived. There are many anecdotes. These capture only a few through the years. The final excitement came when I found a print of Crane in a 1922 portrait by his mentor, Bill Summer, in the Special Archives collection at the Kelvin Smith Library at Case Western Reserve University. It had never been seen before, and we were going to publish it for the first time. It is in the book called Celebrating the Soul of Cleveland. Reviewing my association with Crane, I'm always surprised that I kept meeting him. Well, I found out about his encounters at Lofkoff's bookstore in the Colonial Arcade, where he had lunch with the artists every day. They loved coming there and discussing culture. And then at Brandywine, where he hung out with Summer at his studio. His home was at 115th Street across from the parking lot of the Heart Association building, where he lived for a very short time. I used to celebrate his birthday there with Daniel Thompson, the poet, and read Hart Crane. And then we would go to the Euclid Tavern to read our poetry. My poem, The Bridges That Hart Crane Left, the summer portrait, the bridge drawings, pictures of the sculptures are all in the book under one roof, so to speak. I want to read some of the poem now and include some of the drawings. This is a poem called The Bridges That Hart Crane Left. Why? Because his love of bridges started right here before he ever dedicated his work to the bridge in New York. This poem is dedicated to Alberta Turner, who was a wonderful mentor of poets at Cleveland State University. It starts with a quote called, "City forms are more beautiful because they were never meant to be beautiful." And that's from Margaret Burke White, the photographer. Born in the moonlight, this would be home. Bonfires, beach brush, clearings for homesteads, a chrysalis for handcrafting and making a city. The moon hung unto this place and blessed it with half eye on the water, river, calming lake, waves after the bend. Portage from canal to canal, crisscrossing distances, carrying dreams over trails. Paths became streets, Euclid, woodland, to Lake Erie. A small plaque speaks. The meeting of the Portage Trail and the Buffalo Trail, quote, "Here, here, not easy on the Cuyahoga. Strangers and natives barter for corn, barter first neighborhoods." These are the bridges that Hart Crane left. These shapes, a museum of forms, piercing skies, black on gray or blue, some slight movement, a slight sideways shift, or is it the wind? Some levered up and down, some untouchable, invisible cases preserving them too heavy to move, saved by imagined energy of the truckloads of heavy raw materials. History gathers from the silt, soil, stones, water, building up rock salt, bedrock, eroding, melting, burying truth and secrets, picking apart our being. Was it centuries ago or yesterday that we buried those stories? Was it always a guess? Artisans from Europe, craftsmen from Ohio dig for Hannah, Corning, Mather, and Holden, a smokestack, a railroad for each, a park for Rockefeller, foundations and gardens of memory for those who came here to plant their history. Frames and fenestration down the halls of streets. Stop for a turret, a doorway, a pleasing arch, balancing brick or stone or wood, images crossing oceans of ideas, hand-painted wallpapers, living rooms, and cornices, wooded banisters. History tumbles down staircases into the gardens. Workers gather tools, cut the earth, dig foundations, raise walls for foundries, and stoke the fires. City forms are beautiful because they were never meant to be beautiful. Boat horns and whistles, the song of this city. Bridges strong as bedrock, mills gorging tree sites, keep blooming and dying. With the seasons, alleluia. Smokestacks sang work songs. Trees were there before the stacks, green, then gray and brown dung sadness. Lamentations, wondering what we know for sure, hammer and chisel, worker and workload. How long were days? How many breaks? Whose humor humored the workers throughout the day? What were the tragedies, the faulted estimates, the satisfactions, assembling history, piling up shapes from windows of airplanes, poking up like stovepipes from earth to heaven? Fast-moving cars, truck running over noisy road grids, thoughts from slow, uneven walks over uneven pavement, views of the long approach through a rear-view mirror. One worker slipped dockside. One never came home. Footprints when they fell, anchoring the new city. In the thigh of the road, beneath the stubble of stones that lined the edge, beneath the brick-top surface, lies a history. Storekeepers sweep the top. Dirt slides through to the past. 6 solid city streets packed with stores and homes. 1 gas station. Baking and eating. Family keeps secrets. They keep their recipes fresh for next generations. Sorrows and laughter woven into shawls, covering shoulders at the cemetery. Coaxing boats underneath, coursing trips to the mills, playing games or duty-bound, counting cars, waiting, holding time in the motor shed. People get out to look and gossip, aligned across the east and west, telling the same stories, the battles for the bridges. People on the west side wanting to cross for food at the open market. People on the east side coming home from shopping on the west side, bringing market apples in spring and fall, and east side juicy, rosy-cheeked peaches for the summer pies. Cars line up unevenly like a towpath on the riverbank. Look at the tan and blue water, metallic in the sun. Waves kneading the land like fresh dough. Families spread into the new east and west. Stone cutters set stones into pylons, into sculpture again, putting their hands on the city. Painters look at the bridges from factory windows, from the shoreline, from lazy boats lying low, from the gull perch on the edge of broken boat wood stick, from the shallow sand beach, from the thin road, from the high rise. How the bridges look now crowded with laughter and task. Paintings, Call Me to the River, 1833, 1934, where the sun shifts gears in the afternoon. Greenlands turn into red and bronze, smoke and gray. I travel with the painter to his mural in the reading hall, where the city rises from the riverbed, a stone's throw from the river's eye. We made automobiles, gas, electric, and steam engines disappear into a fog of newer dreams. Every city section has a silent past. In one, factory workers walk to work, 10 minutes, home for lunch at the whistle. Now, no whistle. It's 10 miles by car. Street cleaners stop stories. Languages mix and languages languish as cultures come and go. They are hungry for themselves. Empty streetscapes stalk the city. One shopkeeper sweeps as the day works its way across the shop front, scattering debris like morning news, the loud voices in the wind, processions for weddings and funerals, and crested rumors, sidewalk stories sweep to the curb, roll into dust. A paper moves along the street, lifted by uneven bursts of wind. and deserted thoughts between buildings, split stone, mirror, sun. Spot colors on the city canvas, tarp and rags cover stains. An armchair on the curb collects history. White noise, 18-wheelers, birds cling to the old branches. Children shoot basketballs into the torn nets of their lives. Water, life, and sounds of sunset lure birds, gauging tides and movement, being carried along or flying into color, beak down or wings on loft. Positioned to prevail, hailing clouds, flaunting winds, the sun, a chandelier. Foraging history, fish and fishermen translate traditions and the tough waters. Digging the past, scraping bottoms and surfaces for sustenance. Lead smelters, paint companies, too many workers watch the city crumble into industry's dust. Time lies in the crook of the river. Oarboats struggle for the new watercraft, seeking lanes for working tugs, blocked by boaters seeking fun or napping nightly. Dance of the city, stoplights sway, spitfire voices blurred by passing cars, coming to composure in store windows, sidewalks clearing, monochromatic high-rises step into their shadows, grays, red-browns, burgundies, etched windows framed for city centers. Nightlights dance in celebration, scattered homes spotted through the trees, bird songs calm nerves. Porch, a rocking swing moving in the wind, rhythms in wood, alleyways of brick, dappled from hoof marks, this year's running path. Around the bend, the lake gray distance, waves glower, walloping bridges, pushing the shoreline, pounding like heartbeats, crashing into rock, falling into itself. Gray heaps rise and flatten, exhausted. Shoreline rumble, trains and boats discuss the world beyond the oarboat and craft debate. These are the bridges that Hart Crane left, invisible cases preserving them as the sun spotlights tufts of green, silent pickings in the brown fields. From the attics of the city, litters sucked with leaves. Caught in the grates, love tossed out the trees onto the lawns, collecting life's odd belongings and potential, work songs and lamentation, lighted shapes celebrate form against the night sky. Thank you for coming. I hope you think about our bridges.